We wanted to get eyes on the secondary in Ohio State football's first preseason practice of 2023 because we needed to know how these guys were going to line up. A lot of questions. What kind of rotation at corner? What kind of rotation at safety? I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com along with Andrew Gillis and Stephen Means. And Stephen, you were the one watching the defense today. Did you come out of today, between what you saw and the conversations we had with Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator, afterwards, thinking you may already know the starting defense on opening day?
Yeah, I think I do, which made things a little more simple today, even if they were splitting guys up. Well, first of all, Jim Knowles got asked straight up, or Jordan Hancock and Denzel Burke are starting safeties. He took a sip of his coffee and said, yes. So there's that. We can check that one off. I think we're pretty clear on the fact that Tommy Eichenberg and Steele Chambers are going to be the starting linebacker, so we can check that one off. Defensive line is a rotation, but I consistently saw JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer as the starting edge rushers. Let's check that one off. And then the interior, some combinations of Mike Hall, Ty Hamilton, Tywan Malone, and Tyleik Williams. But those four are all going to play. So, fine, we know that stuff. So now, what's going on with safety? Jim Knowles challenged Sonny Styles to dominate the twos in the spring, and it looks like he's been doing that because in the one time we got to see a true two-deep, the starting safeties were Lathan Ransom at Bandit, which Ryan Day also told us on Wednesday is the case. Jihad Carter as the adjuster. We thought maybe he'd be working in as that nickel, but Jim Knowles said that after maybe working him in there in the spring, they realized he's more of a high safety. So he was that adjuster. And Sonny Styles, who, listen to Buckeye Talk, man, second most votes for driving the bus this year, Sonny Styles got. And that bus is starting to rev up because the way that Jim Knowles talked about him. And don't assume anything with Sonny Styles. He can do anything. He got asked, can he play nickel? Sips drink, yes. I was talking to other people. There is some real excitement about what they can do with Sonny Styles, especially in that nickel world. We saw him doing it in the spring as well, but maybe we thought big packages, Brock Bowers. Well, maybe that's just your base, and so he can cover a guy like Brock Bowers, but then he can also cover slot receivers because he has that level of athleticism. So if you were excited about Sonny Styles before fall camp, we're not going to do anything to temper you down based off of what we saw on Thursday at practice.
Andrew, that was someone that you had your eye on anyway because you new to this beat, but you're familiar with him. You've seen the recruiting background that he has and the way that he was already getting talked about. Did today kind of live up to your expectations of what 2023 could be for Sonny Styles?
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse, but, you see guys come out of the locker room and, they jog onto the field and immediately Marvin Harrison Jr., oh, that's an NFL player. Sonny Styles has that kind of look to him. You're like, this is what an NFL player looks like. Maybe not now, but, add some weight, add some physique. This is what an NFL player is going to look like. He moves really well, and I think that was one of the guys that I wanted to watch. I was kind of more focused on the offense, but I did want to kind of peek over to Sonny Styles to kind of see what we're working with. And, Jim Knowles mentioned it. You said don't assume anything about him. He also said we got to get him on the field. So I think those two kind of hints or those two kind of lines or whatever you want to call them, those two give you a pretty good indication of what's going to happen, that they're going to use him in a lot of different ways. They're going to use him in a lot of unique ways. And more importantly, they're going to get him on the field. So I think that when you talk about Sonny Styles, like he said, nothing is really off the table with him. And I think that your expectations, like you just sold everybody, they shouldn't be limited because there is really no ceiling to this because you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know where he's going to play. He could play all over the defense, and that is just such an incredibly versatile piece to have. So, yeah, I was really impressed with him, and I feel better about my pick of having him drive, or I'm driving the bus for Sonny Styles. I feel a little bit better about that.
Yeah, I think that bus is going pretty fast already. And it's not necessarily, yes, he can play all over the field, which is why I think nickel is such an intriguing fit for him, because I think he can be whatever you want him to be on a given play. And we've been talking about this on Buckeye Talk since 2020 at the latest, and it might have been already going on in 2019, is about finding that defensive player who his position is him. Like he plays Sonny Styles, because you put him at nickel and on one position, he has to match up against, on one snap, he has to match up against Brock Bowers. So you need him to be more of like almost a Sam linebacker in some ways. But then on the next play, he is a safety, and on the next play he might get matched up with a slot corner or a slot receiver. So he's got to be fast enough to hang with those guys. And if you can find an athlete that can kind of check all those boxes, it makes your defense so much more versatile without having to do a bunch of personnel changes. You can just kind of let him be whatever he has to be on a given play. And he is the guy that has been the best potential fit for that, even going back to Pete Werner, guys like that. I think Sonny Styles is the next evolution of that Ohio State might have finally found the guy who goes into that slot, not to confuse our terminology here, and can really maybe thrive in the nickel. That seemed, just with his size, his physicality, but the other athletic things he can do, I think it makes a lot of sense. We're obviously going to keep tracking that through preseason camp, so get the text 614-350-3315 and follow us on Buckeye Talk, because we'll be talking to safeties eventually. We'll be talking to other people on this defense to see how this continues to grow for Ohio State.